I find that when I'm alone and when I'm in meditation is, when I feel like I am the most present with myself. Maybe not others, but definitely the most present with myself.
Welcome to Radically Loved Radio. I am your host, Rosie Acosta, yoga teacher and teacher trainer, mindfulness coach, speaker, and creative writer. I am also the founder of radicallyloved.com, a website where you can go for more information about yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and lifestyle advice. On this podcast, we talk to people within our health and wellness community that are creating content through the ritualistic practice of yoga, meditation, or overall mindful living. We hope to create value in your life so that you can achieve your highest potential and live a radically loved life. To stay in touch with us, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Rosie Acosta and on Facebook at Radically Loved Rosie. You can sign up for our newsletter on radicallyloved.com to stay up to date on future workshops, retreats, and latest podcasts. This podcast is brought to you by Four Sigmatic. I have been waiting for months for this product to come out, and it's finally here, the Four Sigmatic Mushroom Focus Shot. Four Sigmatic has always believed in seeking energy through nutrient-dense foods, sleep hygiene, movement, and hydration. So when they came up with this product as an alternative to all those gnarly energy drinks that are out there, I was so excited. This is the first ready-to-drink product that promotes focus and energy without all the gnarly ingredients. You can sip half of the bottle of lion's mane and guayusa with the powerful pineapple taste from only real ingredients. No artificial sweeteners or flavors are allowed. I can drink half of the bottle in the morning and then half in the afternoon, and it doesn't make me feel weird and jittery in the afternoon. Go to foursigmatic.com and use the promo code RadicallyLoved, that's RADICALLYLOVED, to get a special discount on all the Four Sigmatic products. Back to our show. Hey listeners, we need your support. Help us by subscribing and rating to this podcast. Send us a snapshot of your review or comment, and we will send you a very special Radically Loved gift. Send your comment to info@radicallyloved.com. You can also click on the show notes here on this podcast for more information. If you want to be part of our community, please click the link to our private Facebook group on the show notes of this particular podcast so you can be the first to hear of upcoming trainings, retreats, and special Radically Loved events. Thanks so much for listening. Krista and Lindsey are the hosts of the iTunes top-rated The Almost 30 podcast. They talk about all things health and wellness, entrepreneurship, self-development, humor, and most importantly, honesty. I've been a longtime listener of their podcast and had the opportunity to have them on our show and have a conversation about the things that are currently important to them, the importance about building community, the importance about feeling empowered, and what to do when we feel imposter syndrome. This conversation couldn't come at a better time, and I am just so grateful for both of these girls and the community that they've created, and I'm so excited to share this conversation with all of you. Here is Krista and Lindsey. Krista and Lindsey, I am so excited to have you guys on. These are two of the most amazing hosts on the top iTunes rated Almost 30 podcast, which is one of my favorites. And I've listened to your podcast probably for the last year. And number one, I love the topics that you guys talk about, and I like your guys' laughter. So sometimes it's like when I listen to your guys' podcast and I'm like, oh, it makes me feel like I'm one of the girls. And so I'm really excited to have you guys on. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Rosie, thank you. That's so sweet. Yeah, we love thinking that everyone's laughing along with us too. And yeah, we've had some like really interesting and not so easy conversations in the last few months, but it's been really beautiful to like hold space for everyone else who wants to be having these conversations. And, you know, we're not doing it perfectly, as you know. And so like, it's just nice to just be ourselves and explore like how we can do better and how we can know more. And just like make the world a little bit better in that way.
Yeah. And so in your guys' journey to create and cultivate this community, what have you noticed about yourselves that has been the most surprising thing? And I'd love to hear from both of you guys.
And this is Krista. I think, and I'm pausing just because, you know, doing the podcast has been such a learning experience for both Lindsey and I. I mean, our podcasts go very deep, and it provides an opportunity for me every time we have a conversation to reflect on my opinions, to reflect on my belief systems, to reflect on, you know, how I act every day in every relationship or how I'm showing up in the world. So it has changed me in every way in that sense. And it's really made me so much more self-aware, you know, of everything that I say and everything that I do, which is something that I have to work with on a daily basis, you know, because it gets to a point where because we are in the public eye and because everything we're saying is for everyone to consume or listen to, which I love and I'm so grateful for. But it's also like there's more of a responsibility that I have, and there's more pressure, you know, for me to show up as someone that's going to be a positive force for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's helped me to listen more while we talk a lot on the podcast. I think like it just gives me, similarly to Krista, it just gives me pause. And thinking about how I grew up and how what I thought were very short, brief moments in time were really impactful to how I relate to or react to a situation or an issue. And being very kind to myself as I learn more. I'd like to believe that I'm doing the best that I can with what I know. But once you know more, you are pushed to do better. And so at times that's a little bit uncomfortable because you're just so used to what you've always done and what you've always known. So it's really nice to have Krista, to have a community that is also learning and teaching us. I mean, we learn so much from our listeners. We learn so much from our guests. Obviously, that's a huge part of our show. So just to live in this state of constant learning is a teacher to me. You know, just whenever I pull my like daily tarot pull, 9 times out of 10, I choose the student card. And it's just a reminder, like, you know, letting people watch me learn, just being excited and joyful as I learn and play with it, and just be able to move through it in a way that feels like me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I really do. I really do love that you both really speak about this at length, because this whole idea of evolving as a person, it's like it's tough work sometimes, you know, because we think we encounter certain obstacles in our lives and we think, oh, I just need to get through this move, or I just need to get through this next relationship, or I just need to get through this next task, and then things will be better. But I think it's just that constant learning, that knowing and that remembrance of just always being a student, right? And having that outlook. So I really love that you're both very open to that. Have you both always been that open? I know that this is, you know, being open to like different esoteric things or different modalities of healing. Have you both always been this open, or was there a time where you guys were maybe skeptical of
I think
things.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I mean, I grew up in Ohio in a small town, and, I didn't know about anything. The most far out thing was that my mom listened to NPR. So, it's always been in my blood, and I've always been curious. I've always wanted to grow. I've always loved learning. I've always been someone that, when I find something I'm interested in, I'm obsessed, and I just can't get enough of it. And I've always been someone that's very sensitive to different things. So as I've grown up and as I've, been exposed to different places, and I would say that travel has really been part of the, I don't know if it's a catalyst, because the catalyst would maybe be going vegetarian or vegan or meditation, but it's been a lot of like the inspiration for me to learn more and to see more. Because, you hear stuff like, as an example, we were in Mexico a few weeks ago, and, the news says Mexico is so dangerous right now and everything that's going on. But then you get there and everyone in the place where we were was so kind, so happy, so loving, so safe. And there's just so much going on that we don't know about. So travel was really something that started to open my eyes and started to make me not believe until I saw for myself, and really be open to different experiences and different ways of growth. But the podcast, I mean, is just, taken that to another level. And living in California really has really just given us every single opportunity to try all of the things, which is so fun.
Yeah.
And I think I also grew up kind of in a small town, but I was just always in kind of like these institutions where rules were a big thing. So I was kind of like a people pleaser, rule follower. So whether it was at home with my dad, who I love, but he's very strict, and there was a lot of expectations and rules. And then going to a private Catholic school, nuns in every corner, eyes on you all the time. And then just like the expectations in your extracurricular activities too. I mean, you'd go to like my dance school, I'd be there like 5 days a week, and you had to be there early to do this and do that, and just the expectation. So I was always kind of following what people expected of me. And I think that like kind of thwarted my ability to be like a seeker when I was younger. So I wasn't actively seeking like the unknown. I was like chilling with what I knew and with what people, I was just kind of like comfortable. I was like, it was just, I didn't really think outside of that box. But I think like the side of me that is really creative and weird, and who like made grasshoppers her boyfriend when she was younger, like she lives and like she's lived throughout. So like it's funny now. I just got like the message the other day. I was in like a session with our friend Natalie Miles, who
Yes.
And she referenced this very specific moment in time with my grandfather. My grandfather was communicating with me. He's like, you need to be more playful and funny and weird like that on a more regular basis. Like I have like waves when that comes through, and I'm like, oh, let me create this certain content or whatever it is. And I just kind of go for it, and it's weird and it's whatever. But he's like, you need to be like that all the time, and whatever you do, like just be a little bit more playful in that way. And it just really rang true, because there is that side of me that is curious and explores and doesn't give a shit, and isn't worried about the audience that's going to see it or hear it or receive it. So that's been interesting as we, become more, I guess, like well known. And so, I'm just kind of learning to maintain that sense of curiosity, as like almost 30 becomes the entity and like living, breathing, and thriving. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't really got it down. I still have some of that people pleasing inside of me.
Yeah. Don't we all? Like, I think we all have that. I think that's, we all still have that, that people pleasing. Am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Type of thing. I think, I mean, I know a couple of friends of mine who are, authors or influencers that are of a certain age where I feel like for them, like, oh, they probably have it all figured out. Like they're probably really confident and they no longer have imposter syndrome. And even in talking to them, sometimes, they're like, no, we still get that feeling. And so I don't, in a way, I almost feel like, is there a way for us to become friends with those feelings, as opposed to feeling like we have to eradicate them,
For sure. I mean, I don't think we're feeling them for no reason. I think most of my life I've kind of been like, being in theater and performer, I've always kind of been an imposter. So I think sometimes I'm good at faking it, but when it comes to really, truly, truly believing it, like I'm finding it challenging.
Yeah.
But it's happening. It's just slowly happening. It's a slow burn as you expand into who you were meant to be. So I definitely think you can be friends with it and collaborate with it.
Yeah. Krista, what about you?
Yeah, I was just thinking too, when you guys were talking about it. And for me, it's like right now, almost 30, we are so heads down with our work. And we have been working so hard for, 2+ years that it's like, I don't even know what's really happening enough to analyze it. And I'm more of like when I'm alone, I'm very like insecure, or I'm very like judgmental of myself, but it's not necessarily in a way of wondering if I should be in certain rooms or not. I definitely have situations where I've given pause and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm in this situation with these people or places. But it seems like, from our experience, when we get into these rooms, like it does feel like they're just people, and it does feel like they all have their things. And having conversations with people that you feel like have it all together, and they say, that they're struggling or that they are having a hard time with this, is just like sometimes dumbfounds me. I'm like, oh, I would have never thought that. So, all we can do, and all I try to do, is just do my best about being very honest about the journey and being very honest about the struggles, whether it's related to my self-image or whatever it is. By being honest, I just hope that I can, provide someone else inspiration to also do that too.
No, I love that. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I have a question pertaining to that. I think it ties in somehow, and it's something I wanted to talk to you guys about as well. Being as you guys have done events, you guys did a tour for the Almost 30, where you guys did these incredible events, and you got to meet a lot of your listeners in person. I was on a tour last year with Yoga Journal. I was on the road for about 10 months. Wow. And we were doing this, it was this project called the Live Be Yoga. And so we went to, it was about 30 cities in like 30 weeks or something. And the idea was to explore the yoga culture in all these different rural cities across the U.S. We started on the East Coast and ended on the West Coast. And actually, in fact, we ended in the middle of the country in Boulder, just outside of Denver. And we learned so much about the community at large. And we learned a lot about ourselves. And for me, particularly, I was really struck by the level of love and desire to learn, and people's openness. But I was also struck by the current state of the country, right? That we're in, there is a lot of disconnection. I don't like to say the word division, because that's just like not part of what I want to perpetuate. I think that there's just a disconnection. And so you guys have both toured, and I'm curious to hear what you guys learned on your travels and on your journey about not only just your community, but the communities in the vicinities that you guys were in.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up because, Lindsay and I have learned so much on our tour. I think it's been definitely such a big part of our growth, and seeing our community in person has completely changed the relationship that we have with them and with everyone that listens to the podcast. And I feel like it wasn't so different in every city, but it did feel different in every city. All the girls are so kind and warm. And one of the things that I was really struck by is how much Lindsay and I would freak out about, the swag bags or, the seating or the lighting, or, we want everything to be perfect for everyone that comes to our events, because experience and the environment means a lot to us. But the girls who came, they just were so willing to help. They were so willing to be there for one another and talk to strangers and speak kindly to one another. So it really just, blew me away and gave me hope for the women that we have in our community, but overall just for a lot of the people across the country. I didn't know that, I can meet so many women that I got along with that were smart and intelligent and driven, and willing to help out, a stranger, like I said, at all. So it really just gave me that complete hope. There was times, where you do go to certain places and there are topics that maybe people haven't talked about, like meditation or, even like self-care, that could be a foreign topic to a lot of people. But once you share that, and once you sort of provide the permission or give them a little bit of a taste of it, I think people are so willing and receptive. So we're just thankful that we can kind of start that conversation. I'm sure, like you were, just being put in the right place to these willing people that are excited to learn and listen. And I think that's really the key, is extending a warm invitation to people, with a non-judgmental tone, where people do want to learn. So we're not going to go talking to people that aren't excited to hear what we have to say, or just, have the conversation. Me and Lindsay aren't really talking at them, but we're having more of a conversation. But it's people that are willing to learn from us, or just learn some of the information that we've gotten in LA and really take it and then hopefully spread it, to their communities too.
And I think some of the cities were so ready for these types of conversations, but hadn't really had them yet in a public venue. So it almost felt like, for example, like in Boston, which is where I went to college, and I know the city very well, and I love that city. But it's almost as if like 70 women like kind of found themselves like kind of floating to this little space that we created for them, and like looked around and they were like, oh my God, there's like more of me. Like they didn't realize that like there were other women that were interested in health and wellness, that were interested in going a bit deeper in conversation rather than just talking about the Red Sox or whatever they talk about. You know what I mean? Like I do feel like in certain cities, like there is a dominance in one way. So in Boston, for me, energetically, it just felt like beer, sports, business, right? And so for these women to be given the permission to come together, to have these conversations, like you just saw it in their eyes. You're just like, whoa. So that blew me away in Boston. I think it happened in New York. I mean, we brought in our friend Milana Snow for a large group Reiki healing, which was incredible. It was about 200 people that night. And New York is another place where it's like go, 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 like never stop, loud, loud. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in this beautiful, peaceful space with 200 other people who have similar interests and perhaps intentions. And it's like, oh, this exists, So it was just like those little moments where people were like, oh my gosh, yeah, I experienced that too. Or wow, like I'm from that same hometown. Like I totally know what you mean. Or it was just beautiful to be a witness to that.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that this was one of the things that I really loved that you guys are about, that you guys did, because part of I love the digital world. I love to have this podcast. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to be able to communicate and spread messages on a bigger spectrum. But I really think that there's something to be said about the human to human connection, right? About us being able to actually sit in a circle or like be at an event together with like-minded people and to really understand more of who we really are. So I love that this is something that you guys do, because I feel like it's such a beautiful way to really create that ripple effect. Like you're saying, it's like somebody might learn something, about themselves, and they're going to go out to their family or their community or their friends, and they're going to continue to spread that message.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, God bless Instagram. It can be a terrible place, but I have such, I'm so grateful for it, for, the job opportunities it's provided me and a lot of the girls in our community, and for connecting us with great people. But, Lindsey and I, from the get, like, we've never wanted this podcast to be completely about us. We've always wanted it to be very inclusive as much as we could be, and just have these, diverse conversations. So, when we said we wanted to go on tour, we didn't know that it was going to be so impactful to meet these women in person and to hug every one of them and to see them and to listen to their stories. Because I feel like for a lot of our listeners, and, it's probably the case, or maybe the case for yours as well, that they listen to us every week. So they listen to us for, 3 to 4 hours every week, every Tuesday, Thursday. So it's kind of their opportunity to share a little bit more about them with us, and kind of share what's going on in their life, and kind of make that exchange together, make that energetic exchange in person, because they feel like they know so much about our lives and what's going on with us. So it just provides them like an opportunity to really kind of give back to us. And we cry. I mean, I cry almost every event. I do, like, I just like start crying almost every event. It's kind of how it goes. And it just feels so good, in these safe spaces with these women, where a lot of times women are crying, it's good tears, and it's just emotional, and it just feels really safe. And it just always makes me feel so good about, society, I guess, when we're seeing so much negative in the news. You can go to one of our events, or, one of your events or retreats, and just be reminded that there's so many good people that are curious, that are seeking, that are trying to do better. It's just it's medicine.
And we're living behind the mic a lot, obviously. So, I mean, to meet people in person, it's the heartbeat of like what we do. It reminds me like how alive what we're doing is. Cause sometimes like you just get into the routine of it all, but then this tour, that's why I'm like, we're kind of on a little hiatus from the tour. And I had a moment the other day. I was like, I miss tour. I was like, I like being out there. Like it feels so good, and, so that's just like a beautiful reminder of why we do this. And then two, like, I just never considered myself like a girl's girl. And I had an experience like in middle school where I was like, oh, can never trust girls, and I'll never have them as best friends. Right. And I'm sure we all have experiences similar. Right. But to be shown in such a big way that my relationships with women are some of the most important relationships I'm going to have, and that they are sacred, and I need to tend to them and care for them, even if they're new and they're basically strangers. Like, it's important because as women, we have shared experiences in so many ways. And I'm just like, I feel very, very lucky. Because, we've created a space where people feel open enough to share their experiences. And so to kind of receive and listen to those stories. I mean, I don't take that
totally
lightly
agree
whatsoever.
With both of you. I had the exact experience when I was on the road as well last year. Although after 10 months, I didn't really miss it for a while. It took about maybe like a year later, which is now where I'm like, oh, I miss being on the road. Where it was like, oh yeah, that was an exciting thing. It was fun, but I love to be able to do things where they're in person, where I can actually like see people and touch and connect and have people share their stories as well. And I think it's a wonderful cultivation of connection that you guys are cultivating and creating. So for both of you, I'm curious to hear, in yoga, like we go on this yogic journey, on this path to find our purpose and to find our voice as a leader, as a teacher, as a yogi, to spread our message or to be the light. And so in that journey, right, it's the journey of self-discovery, and we practice yoga because it's the microcosm to the macrocosm, right? How we do anything on the mat is how we do everything in life, right? And I know plenty of yogis that have never practiced yoga, like there's plenty of people out there who they're just naturally doing that. They're just naturally connected to their dharma or their purpose. This podcast is brought to you by Omega Power Creamer, the keto coffee creamer that provides high quality fats to your morning coffee. This easy to use all-in-one blendable creamer gives you the same benefits of keto coffee without the mess and the hassle. And it was also designed to make it super convenient and great for when you're on the go. A lot of you know that I travel so much, and I always travel with my Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee. And I always like to add either MCT oil or ghee, and I like to blend it. And I found this incredible product that combines all of those things in one. It has grass-fed ghee, organic fair trade, virgin coconut oil, MCT oil, and sunflower lecithin, and it's completely sugar-free. Many of you know that I've struggled with my sugar addiction, and it's something that I've gotten really, really good about eradicating completely from my diet. And I know that in the new year, this is going to be super helpful. And I'm really grateful that we were able to partner together to create a happier and healthier community. This creamer is easy to use. You just pour it into your coffee and you blend it up and it's ready to enjoy. There's 4 different flavors: original, vanilla, cacao, and cinnamon. And you can check out their website, powercreamer.com, and use code RADLOVE1 for 10% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this podcast. I'm curious to hear from both of you what your personal message is, and what your dharma is, or what do you aspire it to be?
It's so funny because this morning I was walking to my trash can outside of our apartment, and I threw our trash and half of it missed and hit the ground. And I literally thought to myself, if that quote, "How you do anything is how you do everything," is right, I am like a fucking mess. Because I literally I thought about that 3 times today. I'm like, my shirt is covered in stains. I'm I just was like, oh, I hope that's not true.
Exception to that thing.
I hope. Yeah, I hope.
Really honestly believe you are.
Okay. so on that front, because I'm I do some shit really well and I don't do some shit well at all.
But that's everything. But here's the thing, that's how we do anything is how we do. Yeah, but that's the balance. And what is balance? So people always think oh, balance means that I have to have everything in order, and balance means that I have to clock out at this time and then go get a massage and then it's time for self-care. But balance, the Latin word for balance means balance, to ballare, to dance, right? To dance. And so it's just a dance. I mean, that's all balance really is. So you're doing it right. Continue. Sorry for interrupting. Yes. I just had to validate you in that moment.
Okay, good. Thanks. I picked up the trash, guys, just in case. So it was everywhere. I picked it up. But I guess, or just when you were talking about that, for me, it's I hope that a lot of what I do in my life, and I hope that the person that I am that I feel lucky to be this soul in this body. It hasn't always been that way, and it's not always that way, but for the most part I do, is someone that can give people permission. So whether that's giving people permission to not drink, whether that's giving people permission to quit their job and find a passion project that they love, that they make into their career, or whether that's giving someone permission to dig a little bit deeper into their relationship with their body and where that came from, or just giving them permission to like be more of themselves and to laugh more and to be bold and to be unafraid to say whatever it is on their mind. I feel like the way that I was raised, the way I grew up, everything up to this place has really given me kind of like a naivete where I don't really, I'm unafraid to say whatever's on my mind, and I'm unafraid to be myself, and I'm unafraid to speak from the heart. And I feel so lucky for that reason. And I really feel like our conversations in this podcast really allows me the opportunity to spread that message and to sort of stand in my light as much as possible, hoping that it encourages others to seek and to stand in theirs as well.
I think for me, it's always been about, I grew up kind of not trusting myself and just always second guessing, I guess. And so there I go, second guessing. But it's like really trusting in yourself, trusting in the process, trusting the timing of your life. I want things yesterday and I want to skip a few steps. So I've just noticed, especially recently, where I think like my life's learning is patience, and that goes for, creative processes, career, relationships, finding love. Like everything is asking me to be here now, like be here now. Right now is wonderful and has so many lessons for you and opportunities, and you have infinite potential in this moment instead of wishing that you were 10 steps from now or you could have done it differently. Just be here now and trust that everything's going to work out exactly as it should. Trust yourself to know that like you are enough right now. Like I always, it's hard in LA, like we're in the thick of like self-development city, It's like everyone's a coach and reading this book and going on this retreat, and it's beautiful, and like we are so in that world, but it's also very overwhelming. I'm like, so how can I improve today? Like it's amazing, but on some days it could be super daunting. So just having a little grace like throughout all of it is also challenging. But yeah, I'd say trusting, patience.
Yeah.
That's the lesson.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And, apropos being in LA, I mean, I grew up here, so I get it, it's the mecca of self-development. Like, I mean, that's why Paramahansa Yogananda came here in the 1930s, because his guru was like, you have to go somewhere where people are really impressionable. Go to Hollywood. And so that's why, he opened the Self-Realization Fellowship here in Los Angeles, because he's like, where can I get people that are looking to improve themselves or wanting to be better? And, now here we are. I mean, there's obviously other factors that are attributed to that, but I think it's really, really interesting to be able to be in that space and try and keep some sort of semblance of sanity and not have to be digging up all the shit that lives in your closet all the time, So what do you guys do to turn it off, to turn that part off? Not necessarily like you're turning off your wisdom center, but what is it that you guys do in order to hit that reset button, or to like, Netflix and chill it out, or, whatever it is that you guys do to unwind or to turn it off. That's what I call it.
Yeah. I would love, I would love to hear, what your things are. Because I actually really struggle with this. I enjoy working, I enjoy doing, and I come from a family of doers. My mom, my entire life, like never chilled. My family just isn't really a chill family. Our vacations are like boot camps. It's just like we've always been doers. So I don't really, I've not been a good chiller. So sometimes I do find myself like, I literally will make myself watch the Kardashians because it helps me to really shut off because I'm just like so curious about the family or something like that. But as like a nice thing or like a PC thing, I do meditate daily, and that has changed my perspective completely and helped me slow down my doing a little bit, or just try and live more in the flow rather than continuously pressing forward and continuously wanting more. And then baths, I really like a good Epsom salt bath at the end of the day. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast, but most of the time I try to listen to nothing or be in silence. And when I drive in my car, I'll listen to podcasts a lot of times, but I'll try and actually listen or not have any music or audio on at all. And that just really helps me to kind of track my thoughts and just kind of get a sense of like what's going on in my head, because if at that time there's no music, no audio, it actually is just my thoughts. So I can kind of see what's going on rather than just like always consuming information or music or calls or stuff like that. So I'll try and find little pockets like in the car or in a bath or through meditation, which I do daily.
Yeah, this is a good question. I think I'm interested to learn more ways to kind of disconnect as well, and step out of just kind of the craziness of like what we should be doing. But I try my best to get out, and we're so lucky in LA to have kind of like nature right there. So I'm 3 miles from the ocean, whether it's just going down by the water and taking a walk or even getting in the water. And then, going on a hike, just getting out there and disconnecting, leaving my phone in the car, not needing to like track it on Instagram and all of that. And then just like making sure that I'm fanning the flame on other parts of me that want to like be creative and just like come alive. So whether that looks like just writing, taking 20, 30 minutes to just like free write, or maybe that's filming like a silly sketch on my own, like, or singing, or, working with one of my like actor friends and just being like, hey, come over. Like I have an hour. Do you want to like film something? Like just not being concerned with the audience or where it's going to go or whether anyone's going to see it or I'm going to make money from it. Just allowing the creative energy to move through me instead of getting frustrated when I'm unable to express myself. And that kind of takes me out of kind of the everyday expectations, just kind of throwing a curveball and doing things that are a little bit out of the ordinary and weird. That's helpful.
Yeah, I'm always curious to ask this question to people that are doers or influencers or out there, creating and constantly building, right? Because I find it so fascinating to see the reality of what it really looks like. Like people just get to see the final product. They get to see a packaged podcast episode. They get to see a packaged product. They get to see just the end result, right? Like the filtered image on social media. Like the whole thing is, we rarely get to see, and some, I think it's better now. More people are talking about the inner workings of just life in general. And so I'm always really curious as to what people do to sort of turn it off. And I like everything that you guys both said. And I've definitely had my part in participating in all of those things, including the TV shows. So it's quite nice to be able to do those things that you you stop overloading your brain, because we're not only an ocular society, but we're constantly putting information in. Things are getting in, like we're just constantly seeing. I mean, we're scanning as we're driving. There's billboards and there's text messages and there's ads on the radio, or there's, everything is just onslaught, info. And our brain just isn't developed to integrate all of it. So that's what causes this like prana depletion, right? So in yoga, it's the study of prana, and prana is like your life vitality. It's your life force. And so in life, like typically we do things that are prana filling, like that gives you energy. Like prana is like the force in Star Wars, I guess you could think about it in those terms. And all of the things that give you life, like, Lindsey, you're talking about, working on, creating content or like skits or doing something fun, right? With your friends, or, taking the, Krista, you're, disconnecting and like watching a TV show, or like doing something where we feel like, okay, we just need to put prana back in. We need to put energy back into our body because we feel a little bit depleted. And I think that having those things is something so key to be doing, especially now, because we do live in a different age where it's like there's news everywhere and there's notifications on your phone and there's like all of these things. And so I find that for me, just turning everything off, like the computer is off, like disconnected from the outlet. My phone is off. Like those are the types of things where it's like, if I want to watch a TV show, I lay in bed and I watch it without having the distraction of my phone, because then we do that thing where we're watching television and then we have the phone, right? Am I the only, you guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh yes. I'm like, fuck, I wanted to sit down and watch this like documentary on the cosmos, and then I'm like on fucking,
I know.
It's easier. I find it easier when I'm watching with someone, because they kind of ground me to be fully present. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where I'm like, oh, I could be checking emails at the same time that I'm watching this documentary.
Yeah, but then at that point, at that point, then you're doing something that's prana depleting. Then you're taking away. You're going right back into the cycle, because we're fucking addicted, right? We're so addicted to the information intake. We're just addicted to it. That's just like, we're like info junkies, like that's just part of what we do now. And so I love that you said that, because having another person there is absolutely grounding. And I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this, but I interviewed Simon Sinek. I've actually I've talked to him a couple of times. You guys know who Simon Sinek is. He's
incredible.
This incredible like speaker, teacher, leader, author. And I remember he said to me, we don't get to decide when we're present. Like, we don't get to decide, like all this, like, oh, I'm being present right now. We don't get to decide when we're present. We're present when we're in the service of others. Therefore, they get to decide if we're present. And I was like, mind blown. Because I'm like, oh my God, that's totally true. Because I could say I'm present all day long, but am I really present? Who gets to decide whether I'm present or not? If I'm present with somebody else, and it's exactly what you said about having another person there that's grounding you, because that's exactly what's happening. Because you're now in the presence of another human, and you're in the service of them and their attention, so that you're both creating this space of presence, of acknowledgement, right? What do you guys think of that?
That's so interesting. I definitely, it's funny because when we were talking, actually, I was like, you know what, my way to fill back up, if I'm thinking about it from a pranic perspective, or pranayama, not pranayama, but from like prana perspective, is being in service. That's really how you could fill yourself up, is by giving to others. So yeah, I completely agree with that. I think as far as the presence thing, I would even think that it would be being by yourself would be, being the most present. I definitely think there is a presence that is when you are in service, so the act of giving energy to others you could receive from them may bring you into present. But I would think that a lot in our society, when people are hanging out, that they're not very present. It's almost like people hang out with other people because they feel like they have to, or they could still be at dinner on their phones, or, they could be just kind of going through the motions. Like if I think about people that are at work or something like that, I don't think they're really present. And I find that my moments of presence come at very random. Sometimes it's unexpected. I definitely have to work on keeping presence. But I find that when I'm alone and when I'm in meditation is, when I feel like I am the most present with myself. Maybe not others, but definitely the most present with myself.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I go back and forth. I can be very present with myself, and sometimes that's when like things come up and I'm too much in my head. So like I mean, I love being alone, but I also do really love being present enough to say, I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to do this. All I'm going to do is just be with you right now, and not distract ourselves with too much, not distract ourselves with like a crazy activity or a packed schedule. And maybe because I don't have that as often right now in my life, so I kind of crave it, but it does help me to filter through like what's important in my head and heart and what's not. Because I think it helps me when others see in me what I'm not seeing in the moment. So maybe it's a little bit of a selfish presence, but it does help. It helps me to kind of knock myself back to presence. You know what I mean? Because I could like live in my head and just be like, well, I'm not doing enough, or I should be there, or should be doing this. And it helps me to have someone just like either listen or have a conversation or just recognize perhaps what's actually going on right now in this present moment.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like everything. I'm going to have what both of you guys are having, I think. Okay, so I would love to just continue to chat with you guys all afternoon. And in fact, I hope to make it to one of your next events. So hopefully that'll become a reality. And so I just have a couple more questions for you guys, too, in fact. And I'd love for you both to answer them. The first one is what advice? So I'll have Krista answer first and then Lindsey, and then we'll switch. What advice would you give your 15-year-old self right now?
Oh, my poor 15-year-old self. That was such a hard time for me, just freshman year of college. I think 15. Yeah, 15. Freshman year of college, like I had no idea who I was, so I was really promiscuous at that time, and I was going through some like bullying stuff too because I was slutting around. So I would tell myself that it's okay. Like I just would love to just sit myself down and just be like, it's okay. Like I felt different, and I feel like I was just looking for validation from men because I felt really comfortable with guys like most of my whole life. So I was looking for it in the wrong ways. And just to sort of like calm down, like prioritize what's right in life, and just to really like start to journal and connect with myself and treat myself as a spiritual being, because I wasn't doing that, and therefore I was acting out, and I just was kind of lost, and I was just really unhappy, and I was just felt like all over the place. So if I would have started to care for myself like a spiritual being by meditating, or even not meditating at that time, by eating well and by journaling and by treating myself in a better way, then, I'd be so much further than I am today. But I just wish I could like even tell myself too that like it'll all be okay and everything will work out. Like I would be so relieved to see myself right now if I was myself as a 15-year-old.
I love that.
Yeah. That was also, I think for a lot of people, it's just a very transformative time. I was also going through like some bully stuff, and it was like in a very small environment. So it just felt so all encompassing. Like it just like took over every part of my life. And, I guess I would say specifically to me at that age is that like they don't have the power, like every day I had a choice to wake up and, step into my light and like shine like I was supposed to shine and be kind and be curious. And I, at that time, just gave them all the power. I remember like even now just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, like I just felt so heavy. And I took that on. Like that was a choice to really take that on. Granted, I was 15, didn't have many tools, but like I just like definitely lived in that space of like, there is no hope. No one likes me. Like I couldn't see the light. So I think, just telling her that like you have a choice. They don't have to have the power. It gets better. I mean, just to echo what Krista says, it gets better. Like everything's going to be okay. And yeah, I mean, got through it. It's just like an interesting time to look back to it. 14, 15 is like these very important formative years. So like just now as a 31-year-old, like going to therapy and like thinking about those moments and how they defined a lot of who I am today, which I'm grateful for. I actually think that bully in particular, I was like that girl in particular who, was going through a lot of pain in her life as well, has been one of my greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very wise. All right. Last, ish question. Krista, what would your 95-year-old self tell you now?
Oh my God. My 95-year-old self is honestly going to be talking to me from Venus. So she would literally be like speaking in another language on a different planet. So I'm sure she's just going to be like, she's probably going to be like, oh, you thought you knew all the answers then, but like, look at you now. I think honestly, I think every year of my life, I'm like, I've got it going on. I know what's up. And like every year I'm like, I had no idea what's up. So I will definitely, hopefully know what's up when I'm 95. Maybe I'll be living longer, maybe not. But I will probably be like, you have so much to learn and maybe, work less, enjoy more.
I love. Thank you. Lindsey, same question.
95 freaks me out to think about that. Wow. Yeah, wear sunscreen. Do what Krista does. I mean, it's like literally same lesson. It's just like be patient. Be patient. Yeah. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's happening in the perfect timing. And just because some people are experiencing what you want to experience before you have it does not mean that where you are is wrong or out of order. Like it's good. And like once you have it, it's like time expands, I can imagine. Like obviously at this age, we're like want to be with the person that we're supposed to be with for the rest of your life, right? Or like some people feel that way. I kind of feel that way. I'm like coming to peace with all that. But it's like I can imagine that like when I do meet that person, it's like time just expands. Then it's like, I don't know, that I just feel like sometimes I'm living a little bit on a timeline and I try to knock myself off of that, so just be patient. Timing is perfect.
That's great. I love that. I love both of your 95-year-old selves. Almost 100. Maybe the next one's almost 100. That's the next pod.
Almost 100.
Almost 100.
Yes.
So thank you both for obviously spending some time with me and for sharing your beautiful wisdom and the things that you've learned. I'm excited for what you guys have coming up and what you guys are doing with Podcast Pro. So before we finish the episode, I'd love for you guys to tell the audience a little bit about what you guys are doing with Podcast Pro.
Thank you. This is a delight. So with Podcast Pro, your Podcast Pro, Lindsey and I realized that when we created Almost 30 as a brand and as a podcast and as a community, that there was no blueprint. There was no resources to help us. There wasn't any guides. There wasn't any information on really how to do this and how to make podcasting a business or make events a business. So we wanted to provide all the resources and information that we wish we would have had 2.5 years ago when we started recording. So Your Podcast Pro is a course that we're launching in January that will help people ideate and then execute, market, and brand their podcast. And then yourpodcastpro.com also has a bunch of downloadables, like a media kit for podcasters, social media marketing tools, finding your voice document. So there's a lot of different things that people can use as tools to really help elevate their branded voice.
Dang. Oh, like, dang, wait, sorry, were you going to say something else?
Not at all.
That is awesome.
I just want to say I'm real excited.
And so for everybody listening, they also have a gift for you guys, right?
Yes. We're giving away 3 Podcast Pro ebooks. You get an ebook.
And you get an ebook. And you get an ebook. I get so many people emailing me questions like, what did I do? And how did this? And I'm like, I am so excited. Tiffany sent this. So this is your little fairy guru that works with you guys. She sent me this program. And I was like, of course. Why have we not had this sooner? Like, this is amazing. So I'm really excited to share it with all of you listeners and just everybody I know. This is so incredible. Thank you guys for doing that. So the final question is pertaining to this podcast and why I created this message. And it's about this idea that we are all radically loved by universe, God, source, whatever higher power of your understanding. The idea is that the universe works for us and not against us. This is one of my core beliefs because I don't actually believe that I would be here if I didn't believe that. And so my question to you both is, how do you feel radically loved and what do you radically love?
It's a beautiful question.
I know. I guess my life is a reminder that I'm radically loved. It's just like sometimes things happen or like little things and I'm just like in awe of it. And I just like can't believe, so it's just sometimes when I'm doubting, I'll get a reminder or I'll get a little note or I'll get a little something that just keeps nudging me on the right path. So and Almost 30 has been, the biggest reminder of how radically loved I am and how when you show up, good things happen. But I hopefully can learn to radically love myself. I feel like I definitely have been on a path to loving myself more and I try my best every day. But I think that, finding a place where I am radically loving myself for every bit of me is really the goal and, hopefully will happen sometime before I'm 95.
How do I feel radically loved? At least recently, I just am always just like made to pause when I meet complete strangers who feel like we've known each other forever. And I think it's like meeting each other kind of halfway. So like being open enough to receive them, but then also seeing in them like their purest, most true and loving intention helps to create just like this pulse of just like love back and forth. Because it's easy sometimes to just like default to, oh, I wonder what they're thinking, or do you think they like are judging me about this, or vice versa, whatever it is. And I'm in awe, like on this tour, just meeting complete strangers who feel like family. And I didn't know that like I could hold space for that much love. And it's really beautiful. And then how do I radically love? I think as I get older, it just becomes more and more apparent to me that like no matter what, I need to always just be truthful in how I love, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or, you know, putting love into my career, into my spirituality, into my health, like just not hesitating, you know, taking away that doubt, really trusting the feeling, like letting that feeling of, wow, I really love this person kind of be my compass. And then I move in that direction rather than dancing around the feeling because I'm afraid of how it's going to be received. So just going for it, because why the fuck not? You know what I mean? I don't know. I think like we're lucky as humans. We're really designed to love. So just trying to do that without judging it.
Oh, I love that. Where can people go for more information?
So people can visit almost30podcast.com to learn more about the tour, about events, you know, show notes from our show, just everything. And then yourpodcastpro.com is everyone's new hub for all things podcasting. You know, even if you have an idea or whether you've already started your podcast and you need just kind of a little up leveling, wherever you are in your process, we're so proud. Truly, like I can honestly say we are just so proud of this space that we're creating. It's supportive. We've been there and we want people to learn from where we've been and just hold people's hands just to get them going, because everyone, you know, people have voices, they have ideas, they want to elevate what they have to say, what others have to say. So podcasting is just such a, as you know, an incredible space to do that. So we'd love to, and we'd be honored to help you with that.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for doing this and for being here and for everything that you guys have done, for all the valuable content that you guys have created and for all the lessons that you've learned in the service of us, your listeners. Thank you so much for everything.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're so fun. I love when you laugh too. It's cute that you said you like when we laugh, because we like when you laugh. Good laugh knows a good laugh.
That's it. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am so excited to continue to do this. Please share this with your friends. Email us, message us on Instagram at Rosie Acosta or on Twitter at Rosie Acosta. Subscribe on iTunes, write a review. We love doing this, so please help us continue to keep this podcast going. Thanks for listening. Is there something missing in your life? Is there something that you want to do in the world to create an impact but feel that it's overwhelming? So many of us walk through life feeling unsatisfied, overwhelmed, tired, and desperate for a deeper connection, but don't quite know how to achieve the things that we want in life. Join us this spring at the Dunsky Castle in Scotland for 7 days of yoga, meditation, and yoga nidra, all focusing on finding your life's purpose. During our time together, we will learn how and when to take action, how to lead from our heart and not our head, how to break up with our inner critic for good, and dive deep into learning about desire and discipline and how this creates a purposeful life. For more information, go to radicallyloved.com, or you can message us at info@radicallyloved.com, subject Scotland. We'll see you soon.